I feel this is one of the most incredible stories, and I've had some really incredible stories in my life. About 3 years ago, I got a call from Dietmar Riemann in Germany, who had gotten my name through the Bulger Gallery. He didn't know much about Fritz and his mother coming to Canada. And so we connected, and he told me that he's doing a project for a relative of his, and he comes across this Karl Spiess all the time. And he had grown up in the photo store in Harder, because my mother-in-law put his father in charge of the store when she came to Canada. So we connected, and he told me that he would like to write a story about my father-in-law, because he died in a Russian concentration camp.
When I was growing up, one of my memories is that my grandmother, who lived with us, the widow of Karl Spiess, would come excitedly and say, "Ich hab wieder einen Brief vom Riemann." I have a letter from Mr. Riemann, who was managing the store.
So I'm super excited about the recent discovery of 200 glass negatives that my grandfather shot in around 1930. And the way those came to us is quite remarkable. Dietmar Riemann, who grew up as a young man in my grandparents' photography studio, had an opportunity in the mid-'80s to go through some of those glass negatives and decide which ones he wanted to keep. He had a limited ability to get through the glass negatives that the East Germans really weren't that interested in anyone keeping. He smuggled 200 of those glass negatives out through the East German border in the late 80s, paying cash in the dark in a forest to an American diplomat, who then brought those 2 suitcases full of my grandfather's negatives into the West.
So then he got in touch with my son Karl, and Karl visited Dietmar and his wife in West Germany, and decided that this book, which Dietmar wanted to write about my father-in-law, should actually be, since my children are all in Canada.
Erstmal habe ich gar nicht an ein Buch gedacht, sondern mich begleiten ja diese Fotos schon als Kind, als Jugendlicher. Und ich habe die im Gegensatz eben zu den Bildern von meinem Vater, fand ich diese Bilder von Karl Spiess immer als etwas ganz Besonderes.
Well, I think it's a remarkable story, and particularly how the photos actually made it out of East Germany. For me, it's particularly fitting because my childhood memories, the photo shop in Hatta is intimately connected with my memories of my grandmother being excited when she received a letter from Dietmar's father.
Dietmar Riemann ist der Mittelpunkt eigentlich von dieser ganzen Geschichte über meinen Schwiegervater, Karl Spiess.
Vielleicht gar nicht so wichtig, dass es besonders viele Leute kaufen, sondern es ist wichtig, dass es das überhaupt erstmal gibt. Und dass Karl Spiess eben nicht umsonst gelebt hat, nicht umsonst gestorben ist, nicht umsonst im Konzentrationslager der Sowjetunion oder auf deutschem Boden der Sowjets umgekommen ist. Und das Buch und die Bilder werden dann schon ihren Weg gehen. Davon sind wir überzeugt.
I didn't know my grandfather, and when someone who knows a lot about photography, Paul Roth at the Ryerson Image Center, took a look at the photos and said, "Did you know your grandfather was a really nice man?" I said, "No, how do we know this? We don't have any surviving records beyond these photos." He said, "You can see it in his subjects' faces. They're smiling, they're comfortable. The two young girls in the one photo are laughing at him, flirting with him. We don't know, but they're not at all uncomfortable, which is typical of photography in that era." So to find that out about my grandfather was really quite remarkable.